Welcome to mediamelanie TV. Today I'm back to talk about The Buccaneers Season 2 on Apple TV+. We're approaching the penultimate episode. Number 7 is called All Rise, and it appears to be set in New York surrounding Patti's divorce. First and foremost, which of the girls are going to head back to New York? Obviously, I'm assuming Nan will be there. Will Lizzie accompany her since she's her best friend and is now not married and may have some time open? Or will Guy be the one by Nan's side here? And they'll use this trip as a way to start working things out between them because, as I've been saying, I personally think that Nan and Guy are endgame. Also, this could be the episode where the big reveal about Nell, Nan's biological mom, comes to the surface and Nan gets confirmation. I did a video earlier in the season saying that there were some clues that made me think that Nan already suspects this is the case, and if she does, perhaps this is when she gets that confirmation. And how will she react? What will the relationship be with her and Nell moving forward? Is she going to feel a certain sense of bitterness, or will she feel connected to her because they did hit it off at Nan and Theo's wedding? So many questions. And also, following episode 6, we're going to be reeling from this death of that character. I'll give you a couple seconds to walk away if for some reason you have not watched episode 6, but there was a major character death at the end. Richard was killed by his brother James, and I don't know about you, but I'm actually still not over it. I cannot imagine how Conchita must be feeling, and how is she going to deal with this? This is a good opportunity for the show to lean into the female empowerment, the friendships, which really is what The Buccaneers is all about. Friends supporting friends, and of course, some scandal, drama, and tension along the way. Anytime we have a courtroom episode, I would assume we're also going to be getting, hopefully, some justice, and this divorce will actually go through, but also a pretty hefty serving of tension and drama. Is Tracy going to be fighting for this? And with the laws the way they are back then, what is Patti going to end up with? Is this going to be a 50-50 split sort of situation? Is she going to walk away poor and Tracy gets to retain all of the wealth? If so, will Patti and Nell perhaps move to England to be with Nan? Or will they stay in the US and Patti will just live this new single life, footloose and fancy-free, and who knows, maybe she'll eventually get another love interest. I would love to see that for Patti. And I'm just excited that we're going to be seeing her again. Christina Hendricks is such a talent. I've loved her ever since Mad Men. And it's been a while. We have not seen them since very early in the season. So I am eager to get back there. But I'm also concerned because there's a lot to work out within these final 2 episodes. From the fallout of Sedan killing James and what sort of justice he gets. Did put a whole video out on that as well. How Conchita is dealing with this. How is Hector doing after Lizzie walked away from the wedding? And did Hector find out about Lizzie and Theo? My other question from something we saw in the trailer. The newspaper headlines, Affair at Tintagel. Whose affair is it going to be? Will it be Nan and Guy, and perhaps Guy accompanying Nan to New York will yield this scandal because they'll be spotted in public? Or does Hector find out about Theo and Lizzie and throws them under the bus and contacts the newspapers himself and puts that out there in an effort to ruin and tarnish Theo's reputation? What do you guys think? As of the time I'm recording this video, there are no press photos up, there are no social media clips, so I am going off vibes, and I have a feeling that they are keeping this one pretty tight-lipped. All right, before I dive more into the Buccaneers Season 2 Episode 7 preview, be sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel. I've been here with Buccaneers videos 3 times a week, and it's been a lot of fun talking about this show, so make sure you stick with me for the last couple of episodes. No matter what, I would expect this to be somewhat of a calm before this final storm in Episode 8, the finale, which, by the way, is called She Knows. Who is the she? Are we talking about Nan? I'm not sure who else we'd be talking about. This whole story revolves around Nan and Guy. And something we've been floating out there this season as well, with all of the sexual connections that are made here, is there possibly a pregnancy storyline that will come into play? And maybe this she knows refers to who she thinks the father of the baby is. And that could be Nan, that could be Lizzie, and hey, it could even be Paloma at this point. And if we do get a cliffhanger at the end of season 2, I'm thinking it could be a pregnancy cliffhanger, right? I'm also curious who else is going to travel to New York. Is Theo going to accompany Nan and perhaps Lizzie as Nan's best friend being there for support? And is this potentially how Theo and Lizzie get caught? It would be very interesting to me if the four of them traveled back together. I've got to think Conchita is probably staying in England at this point, or maybe she ends up going back with the baby to get away from the grief from the scandal surrounding Richard's death. And we still don't know how that's going to play out anyway. Is Sedan going to say this was some sort of accident? Will he take accountability for his actions? Either way, there's nothing I'd like to see more than Sedan spending the rest of his life behind bars. Some of these couples have really been playing with fire in these last few episodes, and will episode 7 be the time that they burn, or are we going to get a scorching episode 8 finale? At the heart of this, I cannot help but feel for Conchita, who is now widowed. She's left with a fatherless child. How are the ripples going to be felt within this social circle? And will she go back to New York for support, or will she stay in England? That's really one of my biggest questions with this immediate fallout of her husband's death. And how sad is that? Still not over it. They were the real deal. One of the first couples that we met in this series. They've grown so much together and been through a lot. And now to see Richard gone, I am devastated. But again, this is a great opportunity for all the girls to come together, support Conchita, and get back to the roots of the female friendships, the empowerment, and all of that. Paloma, another dangling thread here. I stand by the fact I don't think they would have even introduced this character in the first place if she was not going to come into play in some dramatic fashion. Perhaps it will not be that she's pregnant with Guy's child. Maybe it's because they got married in Italy when they were drinking all that wine and having so much fun together. The way she dropped that bread and looked down at her finger and saw the ring on there. Now, I suppose it could go either way. Maybe they did not get married and Paloma was actually married before and she looked down like, oh no, I feel a little bit guilty. And that's why she got out of there very fast and was like, hey, there's no strings. We're both adults. Moving on. What do you guys think about the Paloma situation? Will we be seeing her again this season? Will it play into a possible cliffhanger in episode 8? So many questions. And Mabel and Honoria. I imagine Mabel is going to be there for Honoria, comforting her by her side following the loss of her brother. I'm thinking now long term, if Buccaneers ends up going to, say, season 4, maybe this is what will spawn Honoria to actually leave and go to France and do her own thing, kiss some other girls, and then Mabel and Honoria end up coming back together at some point and are able to actually be together in a way that is satisfying in this day and age. Obviously, in the 1870s, same-sex marriages or relationships were not the norm and probably heavily frowned upon. But now that we have Mrs. Elmsworth sort of on board and having given Mabel that pep talk about Montreal, perhaps they will be able to at least have some semblance of a relationship beyond friendship in somewhat of a public fashion. And let's not forget about Jinny. What is next for her? Is there also the possibility that Sedan blames all of this on Jinny and says that Jinny was the one that shot Richard? What will happen with Freddie? How is Lady Brightlingsea going to handle the situation of having one son killed the other? And how is Sedan going to explain this away? I just can't see him actually taking responsibility for it. And yeah, he looked pretty upset sitting there on the stairs and is probably in a state of shock. But even if it was an accident, the intent was there because he's the one that started pointing the gun around at everything. And hopefully, if Sedan does survive and doesn't end up taking his own life over this guilt, he does get the justice he deserves and he sits in jail for the rest of his life with nothing but time to think about his actions and the terrible, toxic, awful person that he is at the core. It's also crazy to me that these two brothers can be so different. Richard is a breath of fresh air. He's a sweetheart. He's willing to even let his wife Conchita take the lead, which is not common in the 1870s. Not Sedan. He is an abuser. He's terrible. There's nothing I hope more for Jinny to be able to completely separate herself from that situation. But something that was telling was when Jinny told Honoria, run away, give Freddie to Guy. Backing up, there were a few moments this season in Italy that made me wonder, did Jinny and Guy maybe hook up? And we just haven't got confirmation of that yet. If they did, they've done a pretty good job keeping it under wraps, especially considering when Nan came to visit, Jinny was the one encouraging them to go out, talk it out, kiss it out, fight it out, whatever they had to do to get back on track. Would she have done that if she was holding a flame for Guy? I hope we're not introducing a sister love triangle here as well, because we've already got quite a bit of that going on amongst other couples. I would just like to see Jinny find somebody who treats her the way that she deserves. Maybe we could see a Jinny and Hector pairing moving forward. Or at this point, is Hector going to end up being alone forever because he's so emotionally traumatized and scarred by the way Lizzie left him at the altar and publicly humiliated him? I'd imagine these final 2 episodes are going to be a real pressure cooker. Got a lot of things to wrap up. Hopefully renewal news for season 3 so we can propel us into another season of the show. I wouldn't mind seeing this go on. And because the source material by Edith Wharton is an unfinished book, that gives a little bit more flexibility to tell this story how they want and really end it how they want as well. If I'm just throwing out a few things that I think could potentially happen in episode 7, I'm going to say what I hope for. Nan and Guy traveling back to New York together, Guy supporting Nan while Nan is supporting her mom, Patti. The reveal that Nell is in fact Nan's biological mom, and the women able to have a meaningful conversation about it and get Nell and Nan on a path of getting to know each other and acceptance. I imagine there will be the bitterness factor a little bit from Nan, especially because this is a pretty big secret that was kept from her. Not only just the fact that her dad had an affair, but that it was with Patti's sister. I'm hoping that Nan places more of the blame on Tracy than Patti. And this storyline is probably one that will have to continue into season 2, because in the last 2 episodes, I don't think we're just going to have everybody happy, holding hands, and just miraculously involve the storyline that it's been a while since we've actually seen now. And with episode 7 set in New York, I think it'll be a nice change of pace getting us back to a new location, because we've been in England for all of season 2. I'm excited to get a little bit more New York City, United States mixed in. And I guess another hope or prediction that I have is Theo and Lizzie are still together, but Hector finds them. I think that's just the drama that we need at this point of the season. I'm also curious though, if Lizzie and Theo are not together, did Lizzie truly choose herself and is going to move on with somebody else that she does find true love with? And she took Theo's advice and finds a guy who provides her with the whole love, everything from the emotion, from the passion to the safety and security that she's yearning for. And speaking of yearning, the summer of yearning is truly upon us with this continuation of the Buccaneers, but also the summer I turned pretty. If you love love triangles, then you gotta go check out the Belly, Conrad, and Jeremiah Fisher of it all. I'm also covering that show on my channel with 3 videos a week, similar to what I'm doing here for the Buccaneers. We've got a lot to talk about this summer, and also I'm covering Dexter Resurrection on Paramount Plus with Showtime, and a new show on MGM Plus called The Institute, which is adapted from a Stephen King novel and gives these really dark Stranger Things type of vibes. So make sure you're subscribed to my channel so you don't miss any of this TV talk this summer or beyond. And before we go, make sure you drop all of your thoughts, theories, and predictions in the comments for what we can expect going into the penultimate episode, All Rise. Between the Nan and Guy, the Theo and Lizzie, the Hector, the potential Paloma, the Jinny and Sedan, how Conchita's gonna be after losing her husband, we've got a lot more to wrap up in these final 2 episodes, which does make me think that we will end on a cliffhanger. I really appreciate everybody who's been here with me throughout the Buccaneers. I feel like we kind of all need a support group at this point. And as I've been mentioning, I am on a journey to become a full-time content creator, and every single time you come here, you watch, you like, you subscribe, drop a comment, it really helps me on that journey. So thank you very much, and I'll be back again soon with more TV talk. Media Melanie, clicking off.